So our third speaker is Jeff Rosensweig from Goizueta Business School. And I'm really delighted to have Jeff talking here today for a variety of reasons. He and his colleague, Morgan Cloud, who's professor of law, actually came up with the idea of this university course that has become a signature course in the Center for Faculty Development and Excellence. So I thought when we were discussing interdisciplinary teaching and the challenges, opportunities, we would really need to have Jeff here as part of that conversation. So he is Associate Professor of International Business and Finance. He's also Director of the Global Perspectives Program. Jeff specializes in global strategy, global economics, and international finance. His current research focuses on three main topics. First, business linkages with the emerging global economy. Second, the implications of globally divergent demographic trends for business. And third, factors affecting competition in the global travel and tourism industry. So, Jeff, thank you so much for joining us.
I'm pleased to be here. I want to just make a few points and then open up for the discussion. The first one is a much more complex and rich development of the university course, and I think, Jafar, I heard you're doing one, and Salman Rushdie has done some, the great doctors and nurses who were involved with Ebola, but it was really unique because it was a collaboration with 5 very different people, even to get it off the ground. Donna Troca, myself, Laurie Padden, Morgan Cloud, and the person who is now our provost, Claire Stirk. Now, what's interesting is she wasn't provost when she helped, and Laurie certainly wasn't president of Middlebury College. So what I'm mad about is Donna did most of the work. A lot of the vision was mine and Morgan's. I'm still sitting here. One is president of a great college, one is provost of a huge school. And you would think business people would know how to get a better return on their investment. I went to class every time. I did all these readings. I've taught now in 3 or 4 different, and I'm still just nobody. I hocked my tie to take a cab over here, but I want to talk about why is a business professor involved, talk a little bit about business professors, maybe how we fit in, and professors from the professional schools, and why I think this interdisciplinary, this more momentum that has happened in general with the CFDE, et cetera, as well as the university course, why it's doing something very beneficial for Emory, which I'm going to conclude with. First, a little bit about myself, because it's reflective of a number of business professors, which is I have no business degrees. Many people, many students here, as you know, have a BBA or an MBA, or people even get a DBA, a doctorate. I had an undergraduate in economics, and then I won a scholarship to go off to the other Oxford across the ocean. But the reason I even applied for the scholarship is in the US, they didn't have these kind of interdisciplinary degrees, and they did at Oxford. So I went there to study philosophy, politics, and economics, because I thought there has to be a moral philosophy component, for instance, if you're interested in economics, in business. And as we'll see in the election, there's such ties between economics and politics. So I kind of came out of something of a interdisciplinary interest, but as many people in this room know, to get tenure, you better focus on and ignore interdisciplinarity, at least for some part of your life. I hope someday that changes, but it's something we still do warn junior faculty. The interdisciplinarity can be a good 7-year road to not achieving tenure. I do hope that changes and changes soon. So got my PhD in economics, came into the business school, but stayed pretty focused. But I guess my interest that one day led to me being one of this quintuplet that created the university course is there's still ways, even while you're pursuing tenure, to get involved at some level in Emory. And even many years ago, this was probably a quarter century ago, we had, for instance, and we have a faculty called LACS, Latin American and Caribbean Studies. When I was getting my PhD, I also had a chance to work for the Prime Minister of Jamaica because I was interested in developing economies. So I joined that faculty. Our salaries aren't drawn from lax, but now we have majors and minors. And that was a great chance for me to meet people like, well, let's say Peggy Barlett, and anthropologists and political scientists. The late Ricardo Gutierrez Moat was a key driver in that. And it's interesting how these kind of tie you, like Karen is very involved with that from the Spanish department. Then she, as you know, did a university course on translating the Americas, so I was involved with that. One theme you'll see that I'm going to come back to is I often get involved in university courses that strike me as like those exam questions. I don't even know what you're talking about. Students. Which shows how good it is, you know. But I still, even though I like interdisciplinarity, I still come from that side of campus where we still understand more dollars, yen, you know. To us, translate is like to translate from yen or euro to dollars, and like translating the Americas, I'm like, but that was only topped by you, but I'll come back to you. Okay, so there are avenues, and this is where Corey comes in, is that he wasn't there at the time, he was young, but President Laney pulled us together, a number of us, and discussed what are we going to do about ethics at Emory, and we formed an ethics center in Corey. I guess it's 25 years ago, because we're going to have a 25th anniversary, and that was another chance where people from throughout the university could come together, and of course, being that it's Emory, medical ethics and things to do with healthcare and nursing, such an important part of what we do, but business ethics, even if not practice as much as we would like, is a very important thing. And how do we inculcate that into our education, for instance, and our scholarship? All right, so we have persons like myself, but what I think what interests you is in the business school, we have a number of faculty who have no business degrees. And I want you to think about that because probably the law school, everyone has a law degree, but they also have people like John Whitty who are interested in religion or humanitarian law. Our dean, Erica James, studied psychology, and then I think organizational psychology. We have sociologists in the department. And I think that is useful as we look to the future of interdisciplinarity at Emory. Sometimes we put people in boxes, like, well, the people in the business school, they must be interested in business, and the medical school, they must only be interested in blood flow or something dealing with medicine. Well, maybe they write poetry for the Bellevue Review or things like that. So I think maybe that would be the first thing, and I think CFDE thinks for that, but to even break down kind of stereotypes we have as to where are there interdisciplinary thinkers or people that come from different disciplinary backgrounds in what used to be silos within the university, and we're trying to break those down. But now I would like to speak more specifically about the university course. And again, I don't want to take any more credit than I should. Morgan and I were, to a certain extent, the intellectual foundation of, I was the one really coming from my own discipline of international economics. As you heard about, my interest is mostly international, and it goes to why do nations trade, do international trade? Because some nations, you know, why do we specialize? Because, you know, if Jamaica's really good at beach tourism, well, let's buy beach tourism from them. Let's not try to provide beach tourism in Norway. But Norway has North Sea oil. And there's no oil anywhere near Jamaica, and it doesn't matter how deep we drill. So why don't we bring our specialties? Jamaica can bring beach tourism, Norway can bring oil, Korea can bring cars. So I was thinking about that within the context of, I don't know if you still do it, you have within CFDE kind of a distinguished teachers thing or something where they draw someone who's known to really care about teaching from faculties across the university, and we each have a project. And so mine was, how do we kind of almost build a catalog, too, of people that have talent, like the people on this panel, and their talent could be useful when we're approaching a topic, like Ebola, or whatever the program Salman Rushdie was in, and Jimmy Carter has been in some, so that we say, you know, I don't do too much with, let's say, the School of Public Health, but here's someone who's worked in Jamaica for years, and I'm really interested in economic development in Jamaica, but how can you do that without being concerned about health development? So I was coming toward this idea of let's find out who's here in the university and how do we kind of draw them together into each other's courses. And that's where Morgan came along. He said, well, let's just build a whole course around it. And Lori and Donna helped us conceptualize. And if we can do a course, almost like a trial, well, then maybe the university can build a university course. And people like Dr. Kahn can bid on making some. I'd like to say where Claire came in. I guess she was an associate provost or vice provost in charge of academic affairs. One thing that makes the university course very special, at least the way we did Methland, where we took a subject, a meth epidemic, that isn't just in the urban areas in the U.S. If anything, it's more in the rural areas and with people of all races. And there is an economic component and has to do with not just international trade in the meth itself, but jobs being lost. And there's obviously, meth is a very, something that really is very addictive. So we had people from the medical school who are real experts on addiction, literary aspects, where we had Lori Patton, of course. But one thing that Lori worked on the CFDE was they worked with Claire Stirk to get college credit and university credit and medical school credit. So it wasn't just interdisciplinary in terms of the faculty. We've been involved with stuff like that, but we literally had students ranging from Oxford College students to MDs and PhD students as well as MBAs. And I thought that was a huge leap. I don't know if any universities were doing that. There's always been here and other places, well, we picked some faculty here and some faculty there, and gee, isn't that interdisciplinary? In this MPH class or public health class, we're bringing in some anthropologist or vice versa. But this was a big risk, and I think it was a risk on Claire's part and our part, putting an Oxford student in, a 19-year-old with an MD student or something, but it worked very well. And I hope that's a feature that has continued, and the ones I've taught in, and I think they learn from each other. And often you get the mentoring too. Some of the law students in this really became great mentors, not just to Oxford students, but juniors in the college. And that's where Donna fits in, is in terms of lessons, I'd like to talk about lessons. So number one, top support. You know, universities talk about interdisciplinary. They've been talking about that for decades, breaking down silos. In this case, it took Claire getting out there, going to the deans and saying, I'd really like to see this happen. Credit, I'd like you to, you know, maybe it doesn't reduce any teaching load for the faculty who get involved. Maybe it doesn't move them closer to tenure or promotion, but they ought to get some respect and be seen as part of citizens of this university. So I think number one, you need to start at the top. Number two, you have to have people that hunger like I do to meet other faculty, not just interested in the idea itself, like let's think about meth or let's think about Ebola, but that's really one reason you and I became friends. I knew Pam, she knew me, but seeing how the two of us approach things differently, enjoying each other's humor, et cetera, and that's a wonderful thing if you're going to be a citizen of a university. But the other lesson is you need someone like Donna, the associate director of CFD, but it doesn't have to be Donna in every case. She wouldn't have time. She's also associate director. But I do feel when you have such a disparate faculty, and in our case, we really thought it was important to go to the wider community, another thing that universities often pay just lip service to. We brought in the author of a book, the book called Methland. We brought in people working with public health messages from CDC, with people on the street in Atlanta. So whether you find a high-level grad student to do it or maybe an emeritus faculty member, because they'd like to be involved, and we talk about that as well and never find really good ways for emeritus faculty to be involved. I think you need someone who's the glue, someone who at the end of the day says, okay, it's interdisciplinary, but for instance, are we going to give exams or have students do projects, which of course they should do when the students come from all over the university. And that leads really to a challenge I want to give and then the biggest benefit. The challenge is sometimes how do you bridge not really just disciplines, like here's a medical professor, here's business, here's anthropology, here's literature, and how do we bridge, but even more fundamentally, formats and our models, and even how we look at things. When Karen Stolley asked me, will you get involved with this Translating America thing? Having created the university course as part of these 5 people, I said, sure. But I had no idea what she was talking about, translating the Americas. So I went in to give a lecture, something I had no idea, except I figured, well, I would talk about trade in the Americas and immigration and NAFTA and all that. So I thought, okay, at least I've done one. That's it. Don't have to worry about wording anymore and different ways we look at things. And then this person over here, Pamela, a great friend, says, you're going to take part in one on Ebola. We're going to have all these people, Jimmy Carter. And I think, wow, isn't that wonderful? So then come down to my topic, and I say, well, what is my topic? And she says something about Ebola as a neoclassical disease. So I went in. Neoliberal. You see, I'm still not into this. I wouldn't know neoclassical disease from a neoliberal disease if either one bit me in the knee, you know? So I'm still trying to straighten it out, you know? So I figured disease, Dr. Kahn would have a lot greater, or Corey. Yeah, exactly. So I'm thinking, I got enough problem with Zika mosquitoes and all, and I got to worry about neoliberal diseases now, you know, and do mosquito nets help with neoliberal diseases? So it was great to come in and talk about, and I think that's what I did, was what can I bring as an economist interested in political science, et cetera. And I think that is why it works. But it does take that extra effort, I think, to even understand each other's language, which I thought was a challenge. And finally, I'd like to talk about a benefit to Emory. I think that has come out of the university course in some of this, which is, I think, in my own mind, there's been kind of professional schools and the college and the Laney Graduate School. And you know, it's not as much silos. You know, there's departments within the college, or, you know, we have an MBA degree, MPH with the public health school, or JD MBA, and we've always had these, or MD, MBH, and you have MD, MPH. But it's like, we talk to each other, the college and Laney Graduate School talks to each other as faculty and sometimes students, and they may have mixers together, the students, and there was almost no, I think, interplay breaking down between professional schools and then college and Laney faculty. And now I think something like the university course blew that wide open for faculty and students. And I think maybe as a business professor, I maybe felt overly sensitive, but I think a lot of people probably come in with a basic notion. And I got this as well, you know, getting a degree from Oxford, where the British would always look at business as like commerce and look down at commerce. You know, I always thought our people in the college, well, these are commerce professors. And I think by getting involved with something interdisciplinary like this, and some of my colleagues have been involved in university courses, and people say, wow, that's actually a sociologist or a social psychologist, or they're involved with, what is it called, the Quantitative Institute or something? You know, these things that are now cutting across the university. And that may be the greatest contribution of CFDE, because the university course wouldn't have existed without it. And I think the greatest contribution we made is that now students and faculty interact with each other throughout the university. And others pay lip service to it. If I knew how to leverage off the fact that we do it, I would be president of Middlebury College. So here I am, and I'm not.